Fishers Point is rapidly becoming the place to live for young professionals in Philadelphia, boasting trendy waterfront bars, concert venues, and not to mention great transport links. But the town also has a history. A long time ago, it was once the main downtown of the region, the central hub for trade, and many different people from across the globe flocked to the area thanks to its expansive sea routes. So today we're building out the historic town centre, merging different cultures and architecture styles to create a vibrant old town where old features remain alongside redevelopment and modernised aspects. Let's dive in. So we're kicking off today with a quick time lapse, just doing some road network work around Fishers Point, around where we're going to be putting our old town, I want to say downtown area of Fishers Point, but it's not the downtown of Philadelphia. So we're going to be continuing our collector that's running through Fishers Point at the moment, right on to the end of the peninsula. We will have a small bridge over to the first island, but we are not going to be bridging over into Few Haven at this point. We're going to leave that an open waterway. And the other main connection I want to deal with here is connecting in the other collector road into our local highway running from Few Haven through to Tinney, just to give an alternative route down into the centre of Fishers Point rather than funneling everyone through the highway road. And then we'll also be adding in a few other local connections and trying to sort out this interchange off the bottom of the bridge a little bit to make some of those road connections a bit smoother. But this is actually our 300th upload onto the channel. So 300 videos in 3.5 years. So I'm quite proud of that achievement. If you've been here right from the start of Oregon, give me a nod in the comments below. But yeah, we made it to 300 videos. I have to admit, when I started the channel, I wasn't sure if we'd ever make it to 300. So here we are. So within the next couple of episodes, we'll be doing quite a bit more work on the harbour waterfront around the south side of Fishers Point, continuing that theme that we've done with the last 2 episodes. But we're going to have a break from that today, so I'm not going to be shaping the landscape there, but a lot of that is just going to completely change as we come onto it. And I'm also pretty keen to add in some canal networks towards the east side of Fishers Point as well, so let me know what you think of that in the comments below. We'd love to get your opinions there. But for today, we are going to be working on primarily this space in the middle here, which is going to be our kind of central downtown of Fishers Point, like I said. And what I'd like for this is a real mixture of kind of older row houses, maybe even venturing into some Mediterranean heritage or German region packs, but also with some modern development within that. So the odd, taller, big glass office tower or residential tower, that sort of thing, just to give ourselves a little bit of height and continue the density that we have started around Fishers Point. So that is the general idea. But the first thing I do want to do is actually extend the tram network around the area. And I want to bring in some more of our basins that we've got in this space here. So what I'm actually going to do is divert the tram track back up closer to this main road again. So we're going to run it right alongside the road at this point here. Again, imagining that this was part of the old train tracks. And then we're actually going to put in, further down the line, not in this episode, some actual train tracks coming out onto a peninsula here that are now disused to kind of continue on that theme of the tram line being what has taken over that old space. So now we're going to loop this back round to meet up with this network here. Something like that. And we may do some kind of disused train lines in here as well when we come to do that. I'm not sure if that'll be today or not. I'll see how much time we've got at the end of the episode. But here what I do want to do is then loop it back into this road. Now this is going to be, this is going to prove pretty tricky. So what we might do is just use a bit of move it to move this node away from the road. And then we should be able to get this in. And then we can upgrade this section of road here with tram lines and just shift this one back. Okay, that's not so bad. At least we've got the tram turning in pretty smoothly, but these lanes are all kind of messed up. We'll probably do a junction here, so we'll sort that out as and when we do that. And then we're going to upgrade this back road with our road with tram lines already on it, with the dedicated tram lines, so we're not kind of interfering with it. And here, where the turning's a bit sharp, and I'm not too keen on that, we are going to use a touch of Move It just to adjust these nodes to open up that corner and that turning circle for the tram. And then here, you'll notice I've put in some car parking here. What I would like is actually a little bit of a very small, probably not a touristic-y type beach, but a very, very small beach area in here, a bit more natural rather than kind of built up. And with that, I quite like the tram to run alongside the edge of this road with parking on it. So again, we're going to go back to a dedicated tram line for this. And I'm imagining that this space is much more of a modern feature which has been added later as they've developed and built up the tram route. So not that this was ever an old rail line, just to be clear. So I think that's going to make quite a nice little promenade when we come to do that. And then we can just hook it in. And then we're also going to bring up a dedicated tram line, I think, at this point as well. So we're going to curve it up to there and then run it alongside this road. And hoping we can then, yes, supernode it into this space to get it across to our existing tram tracks here. Now that does look a little bit odd, so let's sort this out. Yeah, I think we can make do with that, but we're going to need to tidy up some of these surfaces and pavements and lights and oddities that are kind of going on there. But what we'll do here is kind of loop this tram track around in a one-way system. So actually, thinking about it, I should have really used the one-way tram track. And that is better. So let's go ahead and add in some more stops. And then we can extend our line. Like that. So we'll do a lot of work on this tram network, like I said in future episodes, but I want to focus on this real central area today, and we're going to start with this little space over here. So I'd like to start with an older style frontage along this kind of curve road, which I think will fit in really nicely here. We may add in some pedestrian paths behind it, probably a little kind of communal garden area park in the centre of it, and then we'll mix in some tower blocks afterwards, but let's get in this frontage road first. And the good news is we have demand for pretty much everything right now as well, so we can add in a bit of high, a bit of medium, anything we want to here, which is great news. Now there is one French asset which I really, really love, which kind of has mixed buildings. Yeah, which is this one. Absolutely love the style of this, so I'd like to introduce this in somewhere, and it does fit pretty well on this road here actually. And we can start to introduce some mixed use next to it. So again, I'm going to go for French style for this. And mix in a little bit of German mixed use as well. Now we obviously need to be careful about phasing into buildings here. Wow, and trucks appearing from within buildings apparently. So we're going to use a lot of Move It to kind of get this into place nicely. And we'll worry about sorting out these back areas a little bit later on. And then I feel like alongside these we could mix in some Northeast US asset pack as assets as well. So we could kind of curve these a little bit around the corner here. And the reason why I'm using like really mixed themes here is because I want it to feel like quite a kind of eclectic neighborhood. I was actually looking around Washington, DC, which we're going to be taking some inspiration from in a build coming very soon. And it's really interesting to see the mix of kind of classical looking buildings and modern style buildings and that kind of thing, particularly evident in places like London as well. So that's something I kind of want to emulate here, is, yeah, a little bit of older heritage mixed in with some modern development and modern styles, like things have kind of crumbled away and been rebuilt or restored over time. So we end up with a neighbourhood that's got like huge amounts of variety in it as well. I really like these Northeast assets too. They've got such character on the bottom, with the stone and the arches. I feel like they fit in quite well with the sort of industrial evolution aspect that we've got going on around Fisher's Point too. So yeah, it's that kind of style I want to go for. I know they're so different and maybe you disagree, but I think we can blend this in quite nicely and with quite an eclectic look. Like we've got this red brick stuff over here, we've got this more plaster based classical European style down this side, so I think it's going to turn out alright. I have tested quite a number of different things with this and I couldn't land on just settling for one style. And no matter what I picked, it just kind of ended up feeling a little bit out of place within Philadelphia. So yeah, I'm much preferring this very heavily mixed style that we're trying to implement right now. And again, you can see here I'm trying to mix in some of that mixed use, so we get some of those shop fronts along the bottom here, which I think will be quite nice to add some character to the neighbourhood too. And with the roofs, yeah, that one did not work at all, so I'm just going to pause it before we make too many people homeless. And what I have found as well is when you're trying to bend these European buildings around corners like this, it's much easier to get two different buildings of different heights, because you can see those chimneys on the end there are going to stick through the asset if it was a similar height or even lower. So this is a better way to get some slightly nicer results with those roofs overlapping, I think. So all in all, I don't think that flows too badly for that big, like, long strip corner here. So what we do want to do now is get in some back streets so that we can start to build things around that and then get in some more assets. So you can see what we've gone for here is quite a disjointed network, and I'm using the one-way alleys because they do have parking along the edges, which actually I'm quite happy to have in these backstreet style areas. I think that would be kind of necessary actually to provide parking spaces for the residents in here. So we can fill in the rest of this block with some older style assets to mirror the kind of backs of there, and then we'll worry about some internal detailing a little bit later on. We will want an alleyway or two through into this sort of central area here. We'll do a park in this space, a bit more old style buildings here, and then over here I would like to mix in, like I said, some modern development. So I'm actually going to add in this Chinese level 2 office block here, which is quite a contrast to everything else we've put in here, but bear with me because I do think this will come together eventually. But the reason why I've chosen this is because it gives us a nice bit of height without being too insanely ridiculous. You know, it's sort of similar height to the towers that we've got over in the harbour area. And it's got a really nice glass design to it, super modern, gives us some contrast to those older style buildings, like a modern office development has come in and taken over this space here. So I'm pretty happy with that. We've got a few little car parking spaces out the front as well, which is quite nice, and some space around the asset to do some nice walkways or plazas as you would find outside these big tower blocks. And so that, in contrast to the older style, more historic buildings, I feel like is very reminiscent of places like London, as I mentioned. So bear with it, and hopefully it will blend in quite nicely by the end. Okay, so I've just got in the rest of the houses, and we've gone for a total mixture here. So we've got some northeast row housing, we've got some European row housing, we've got some French, some German, northeast medium density, total mix. But I quite like the theming. It's my own take, shall we say. So we've got lots of interesting spaces to now detail. So we've got this little back alley here, which can serve some of these row houses. We've obviously got parking all around the alleyway road here because it's a one-way system. So we're going to add a really nice park area in the middle here. We've got a little alleyway to do there. We've got lots of kind of backyard tidying up to do all around those spaces. I'll probably add in some kind of actual car parking around here. And again, a little access road round into here with a bit of a courtyard in there as well. So some really nice little spaces to tidy up now. So let's go ahead and do that before we come on to the rest of the town centre. So here we have the first section of our old town, and I think it's come together quite nicely with the complete different mix of genres of buildings. I think it flows reasonably well. If we just zoom right into here, I particularly like this with the park in the middle and these kind of French classic buildings and some of the German classic buildings around the edge. Really liking that. We've cobblestoned all of this, created new extra pavements around the path area. And this is now a functional path as well, using the block services. I did actually see someone come and just stand in the middle. They didn't use the benches, of course, but they stood there. They used the park. So hopefully we'll get a few more in here, but that block services park is very invaluable. Yeah, so really, really liking that kind of feel of that in the middle there. And then we've also done some random car park designs to fill up some of this space over this side, which I think works pretty well, actually. We've also tidied up loads of the back gardens and, yeah, just a lot of surface work around here. We've also got a couple of murals, which I thought was kind of nice, keeping on the mural theme that we've got further down the bay in Fisher's Point. There we have it. We've also done a little tram stop, of course, on the edge here, which is getting a bit of usage, actually. There's no one there now. I think a tram did recently come round, at least. And yes, here's someone coming now to sit and wait for the tram, I think. Yes, they are. So, yeah, there we go. It is getting a bit of use. But what we want to do is now kind of continue this palette, as it were, around the rest of this central area. But just before we do put in the rest of those assets, there's a few different things that we need to address. So the first one is education. We're actually kind of coming down. We've still got spaces available, which is pretty impressive, but we're about to put in a load more residents as well. But we are coming down in availability, so I think it would be quite nice to add in a high school and an elementary school into this area. I think our budget can just about take it. I mean, we've got 28 million, so we're doing all right from that perspective. Definitely don't need college or university in this space, and also from the other services point of view. As you can see, we've got a couple of warnings, but nothing really sort of out of the ordinary around here. So I think... And yeah, the death care bugs that just continue. But I think on that basis, we're not going to put in fire, medical, police into this space specifically. What I might do is put it along this harbour edge when we come into there, or potentially further up the hills when we start to do that build as well. But I'm actually going to avoid putting them into the town centre for the moment. We may do some changing up later, like I said. But I don't think we really need them now, so I'm not going to waste the money on them. So to start off with the elementary school, I quite like to use the US Northeast asset for this, and I'm eyeing up this little space here. If we can just bring it away from the road a little bit, I think we'll be able to terraform it out quite nicely. So I'm going to plop it down into there, and then let's sort out the terrain. And then what we can do is just bring a road out to the front of it, like this. And connect that into our main road. I don't really like how the surface has spilled out there, so we may change that. And then I think it would be good to have a few parking spaces in here. Parking is highly demanded in Philadelphia, it would seem. So yeah, I think that sits in pretty well. We need to do some changing up of the back and some of these surfaces and all the benches going all the way around it because it doesn't really suit the area. So we'll do that in a spot of detailing later on. And we're also going to come onto this coastline as well. But that's the elementary school. And then for the high school, I was actually looking at what was the best value high school. And the best value high school by far is the French high school. $25,000 a month for 2,500 capacity. So you can see it's only $2,500 a month extra versus the 800 capacity default high school. And it costs the same amount as well. So we're going to go for that. And I also think it will sit into this neighbourhood quite well, given that we are using the occasional French building in here. So I think it will suit the aesthetic. And I'm going to put it upside the tram track here, facing out onto the main road, because I think that gives us a really nice kind of classic corner. Again, with this modern tower in front of it, I think it just... yeah, it stands out pretty nicely. And actually, it doesn't look too classic. I mean, obviously it is, but it looks like a breeze block to me. A slightly nicer breeze block, I suppose, than normal. But yeah, I think that works pretty well with the tram running pretty tight in upside it. Maybe we'll give it a little bit more breathing room here. That should do it. And I think I mentioned previously, but we're going to be running some canals through this side of the city. So we'll come on to that again in probably the next episode, potentially the one after that. So we'll do some more stuff around the high school, but it's in there for now. And we're still on the green, so that's all right. Okay, so this space, there's a couple of key feature buildings that I want to put in, like I've talked about, like a tower, for example, a Chinese office tower. I think it's going to go in here pretty well. And I'm eyeing up this one in particular. It's a level 2, it's a nice height, it's got a nice colour to it, and I also think this location would be pretty good for it, but I don't really want it onto the main road, so we're actually going to set it back a little bit and it can be against its own road, which we'll sort out in just a second. But if we just like sort of scoot back and take a little look at how it's going to look from further away, it's a nice kind of spacing to the tower that we've already got in, which aesthetically I think is kind of pleasing. And yeah, it I think suits it. It's a slightly different height as well, which gives a bit more dynamicism rather than having lots of buildings of the same height. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And then I would like one other one in just to complement it, which will be in this space here, which I think could be this asset, which is just that tiny bit taller. So we're getting a little bit of extra density in. You can imagine with all the low buildings around it, I think it's going to stand out quite nice, and the extra density here will have a bit more high density as well into the hillside too, build up. But yeah, again, just a slightly different height to give a complement to the other two buildings, and that's going to really stand out as well if we scoot all the way back over to Few Haven over here. We're getting quite a bustling area. Because one thing I do want with this city is not to have the downtown as the sole kind of peak in height. It will be the main peak in height, the central business district. That's where most of the skyscrapers and the really tall buildings will be. But we want to get some other high density peaks in across this whole strip of the Tinny extension landscape, what I will call it further down the line. Philadelphia main town, if you will, for now. So I think having something like this over on Fisher's Point is pretty nice. And again, we're kind of going for the fact that Tinny and Fisher's Point was the original sort of town in this area with all of the harbour and the industrial activity around it. So I think it suits quite well that they've redeveloped over time and added density to their buildings. Let's just pause it because that one's not connected. I would like one other kind of modern office building in here, and that is actually a signature building, yes, the EE office, which is a low building, so it's not going to add to the sort of peaks in height that we've just put in. But I do think it's kind of nicely complements the classic buildings with its modern look. And again, I'm going to draw this back away from the road, although we are going to connect it in, because what I'm going to do is kind of create a fake connection for it around the side when we do some detailing, just so it doesn't look like it's at least connected to the main collector road. And we'll sort of sort this out into a big kind of plaza area, potentially another spot of parking in the back if we can squeeze it in sensibly. But I think that's going to be quite a nice framing as well when we come off the bridge here. So if we just look at that now, you can see we've got the big towers, so it looks like you're coming into a city. Oh, I love that view of Few Haven in the background over there and Gaudy Bay, up to Oregon Point and the vineyards in the background. Lovely. But yeah, we're going to come down here and we're going to get that sort of influx of modern buildings, and then in the background we're going to have all of these classic buildings over here, and we'll line the rest of these blocks with more what I'm calling classic buildings, but will involve some northeast US assets, certainly some row housing, that kind of thing. So let's actually go ahead and drop those into most of this block, and as if by magic, here we are. So what I have done is actually introduce more of the northeast US style assets as we come towards this main collector road down towards the harbour and on the coast. So we've got some like bigger, chunkier buildings in here, as you can see over this side, and then we come into the more European look in and around this tall office tower. Really, really liking this section actually, using some of these assets where you've got the individual house at the back of them. So these are like 1x4s, I think it is, or even 1x6s maybe, and we've used those to get a bit of a curve in there, which I quite like. It needs a little bit of tidying up. And then also, just coming onto these roads, we've got these narrow back streets, which is very sort of European, I guess, goes with the style of the building. So there's some really narrow streets, like in particular actually. Really like this shot down here. Once it's all detailed, I think that's going to look pretty cool with those towers in the background down on the Fisher's Point Harbour. But as you can see here as well, we've used a lot of the UK assets along the front, but some of them are differing depths. In fact, they are actually all 4 deep, but they don't really have anything at the back of them, some of them. So we've gone through and added in a few car parking spaces, which obviously I'll come over and surface. I think we'll probably do cobblestone down these back streets again to sort of signify the older nature of this area. But I think it's kind of nice when we've got these individual car parking spaces that could relate to some of the properties down here. A bit of a larger car park there, and then it sort of continues on that same theme down this end. So I think that'll be pretty fun. But yeah, sort of overhead shot is looking quite nice. I do like the mixture of the curvy, odd, broken blocks with the more square blocks that you can see over here. I think that adds to the realism doing things like that. So, I mean, hopefully it's coming across. I know there's a lot of jumbled themes in here, but hopefully once we've detailed it all up, it will look quite nice together. Like here, we've got German asset, Northeast American, and then a high-density European commercial asset, in fact. But I just really want to show that vibe of it was once an old town, but lots of things have been redeveloped, buildings have been knocked down, have been refaced, whatever it might be, and replaced with more modern development of different styles. So there's a lot of different sort of cultures and influences coming into the architecture of Fisher's Point. That's really the lore that I'm going for. So yes, we have an absolute ton of street detailing to do, just like we did on that first area there to finish this all off. But let's just talk about the waterfront for a second. So over in this area where we've got the curved road, I want there to be a really small stretch of beach, like I've mentioned before. But as also mentioned, we're going to be coming in and putting canals in here probably next time as well. So they'll need to head back out into the bay this side too. So we're not going to touch on that this time. But because this is Fisher's Point, I want to do an old sort of wharf, Ribble Rock style. So maybe this was once an old kind of fisher's town. So we're not going to use quays here or anything like that. We're going to use the boulders to create our waterfront along this stretch. And then I think I'll also add in some of our new leisure piers as well, just to get people down here. And I'm thinking later, maybe when we get some fishing, we could add an access point down here and create a bit of a fishing area at the bottom of the cliff around this side, and potentially also in the bottom of the bay over here as well. So that's what I'm eyeing up if and when we eventually get fishing in the game. But that's the idea for this waterfront, is it'll be a stony waterfront with these car parks and this shops. That's another point on the shopping front. So I've kind of kept most of the commercial, the mixed use, along these main roads here and again out here. And we've got quite a bit more along this road, along this stretch here and here. I actually left the car park in. I'll probably recolour it, same as we did before, so it blends in a little bit better. But I think we need to have a multi-story in here at some point. So yeah, that'll do for now. But yeah, the commercial's there, and then the residential is very much centred in the middle of this development and up in this section here. So we've got a lot to finish off going up into the hills, which will be a whole nother episode, finishing off these Chinese assets, doing something with the tram depot as well further down the line too. Just leaving it for the moment. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Now, just before we come on to the detailing, there is a couple of things I want to highlight that I changed from the last episode. So several of you actually said you need to put a skate park or a car park on this section. So we have done that here. We've got invisible car parking spaces in, so they're all functional and in use. And I've also put in some of the skate park props down this end to make use of that space. So that is now done. The playground over here, there were... Well, actually, credit to Anna in the Discord, who was the first one who highlighted this fact, but I had the entrance facing out towards a multi-storey car park onto a tiny side road with no sidewalks. So I have changed that around, and we've changed the entrance so it's now out onto the pavement, and the kids can't get back towards the car park area at the back there, so thanks to all of you who pointed that out. That has now been updated. And finally, a big shout out to Nomis in our Discord channel for winning June's Community Challenge. And it was an I'm a Networker challenge. Show off your best spaghetti networks. And here we have this beautiful shot from Nomis. Well done, Nomis. Congrats to you. There is a link in the description below if you want to come and join our Discord and join next month's Community Challenge, which is all about behind the scenes. If you want to know what that means, come to the Discord, check it out, and you can enter from there and be in with your chance of winning a game of your choice, courtesy of me. Okay, so it's time to do some more detailing. So that turned into a little bit of an epic job. You guys have only seen a fraction of that in that time lapse because honestly there was just so much to do. I have detailed pretty much every single little nook and cranny, including all of the back streets like you can see here, where actually Dome's invisible car parking spaces, the sideways ones, are so invaluable for this. So all of these are actually in invisible parking spaces, and we've just hooked them onto the little pavement areas, again down here as well, on the side of these alleyway strips, which I really, really, really like. I'm going to do that everywhere from now on. We've done things like, you know, made sure there's pathways up to back doors in these back alleys, so the gardens are all kind of enclosed and make sense. Yeah, I went a little bit nuts. We tried to squeeze in parking absolutely everywhere. I've done edging everywhere, surfaces everywhere. Yeah, so where to begin? So we may as well start in this bottom corner and just kind of fly over it all. So I added in a little car park behind this block here, which I think works really nicely. Again, redid all of the surfaces around the assets so that it flows. And the assets feel like they're sort of conjoined and they're part of one development over here. We've added in a lot of street trees all around the place. And yeah, some of the street views are lovely. So I've gone for kind of cobblestone or old stone tiling on all of the pavements and a lot of the back alleys as well, not down in this specific area here. So this is more pavement, slightly newer development where we've got more of the northeast assets. But yeah, just look at that. It looks lovely. It looks lovely. I love all of these little back street alley views. So you can see again, even down here, down the back of the car park, which I'll probably never look at again. We've got soil, or a little flower bed on one side, and the tiling and the edging and stuff on the other. Now we come into the back of these little houses. We can go down all of these back roads down here, and yeah, it just keeps going. And then we come into more of the old town district here. We'll obviously build into those hills in the background, but I love these little narrow streets and how real they feel. Really enjoying that. We've done things like these central courtyards in here, and also this one over here as well, so that's looking pretty nice. Yeah, I went totally utterly nuts. Including, I mean, I hate the way the surfaces clip over the roads above, but yeah, including a little bit of trash and some car parking underneath the highway over here. We've also got a commercial asset squeezed in there too. And we've already shown you the parking alongside the roads over here. This big junction in the middle, actually, I'll flash up on screen a junction in Washington DC that I took as inspiration. So we kind of went for this red edging with a little pond in the middle, which I quite like. I think it fills up the space quite nicely with something decorative that isn't over the top. Of course, then this office as well, we left the green border, so the cars will drive over that as they come into the car park because the connections are still out onto this main road, but I think it just adds again to the realism that actually in real life it probably wouldn't be connected onto the main road, quite like how it is in the game. So I think that works quite nicely, especially using El Glendo's tarmac decals to cover up the pavement to get the entrance into the actual car park there. I decided not to do anything on the other side, so I left this kind of really rough, open, concreted area, which I think makes a nice change to the rest of it, which is pretty highly detailed. So I think some of the street views are really the nicest, like I said. Like we come down here, and we've got this just overgrown sort of green space in the middle. And then on this street, I've done a similar thing where I've pushed the houses a bit further away from the road. So we've managed to get in this sort of flower bed border in front of them. So again, any cars or any service vehicles coming to service these houses would drive over our flower beds, but I think we can ignore that. I have also put in footpaths along this side, so we do get the odd person walking along there, which I think is pretty cool as well. We turn around this way, you can see the effect of it. I think it does feel quite European at least, and quite sort of quaint in some ways. We've also got this green border again over here as well. This one's a little bit more open alongside the main road, but I think that works quite nicely, if I do say so myself. And then you can come back here. Again, we've got all of this back street detailing. So we've got a pathway that flows through into this car park over here. We've got more invisible parking spaces kind of dotted in at random, like that car at an angle on the end. Some on the sides of the street over here. And again, over this side as well. And this all flows around really nicely. I went for the cobblestone look on the roads in this district too, because I thought this being one of the original older areas where we have got more of the German assets and the French assets in here, I think that suits it quite well to have these cobblestone back streets as we flow around all of the back of the houses. But yeah, hopefully you can see how much we did in here. There was actually one garden where I even put in some props. I think it was, yeah, over here. So I redid this back a little bit and just put in some more flower beds, a table and some chairs and things into that little courtyard there. So yeah, I went a bit OTT on some of the small stuff that we'll never see again, but I think it's worth it from an overall effect point of view. There's also tons of people coming around here now. My frame rate is also struggling a little bit today. We're up to 51,000 population. We're making pretty decent money consistently now too. And you can see all the people walking up and down the high street here where we've got a park on the end. So this is a functional little park here with a food truck, some billboard signs, little fountain in this plaza here. I will do something else with this space over this side, so we'll come back to that. And then, yeah, we come onto our original area, which I didn't really show off, but again, some of the street views are the nicest here, really. Like here across the park to those French buildings. Yeah, really loving the cobblestone streets. I did also do a touch of smartening it up outside the elementary school, which I didn't show because it's just much of the same, really. So we've just kind of put a wall around our car park and done some nice surfaces out the front there, so it feels a little bit more appropriate and fits in with the area a bit better. Goodness, I don't even know what else to show off, really. Just so many small little pockets of things to look at in this. If you are a member or patron who's at the level that you get access to the save files, I really, without tooting my own trumpet, would say go and have a look around this one, because I'm immensely proud of the fact that literally every corner feels pretty real, at least I think. I mean, you guys can tell me. Oh, I did want to mention this, actually. So I thought this could be like a sundial, which I thought was a really nice entrance into the old town here. So it's like bright in colours, obviously, and lots of different surfaces within our path circle here, and people do actually walk across this plaza as well. Not very many of them, but some do. So yeah, anyway, that is the start of Fisher's Point Old Town. We will continue it next time out this way with some canal networks also introduced to it. But I think it's sitting in quite nicely, and I think it will, once we join the dots in the hillside and down the harbour, flow quite nicely onto our original Fisher's Point area, with the gentrification and that sort of thing. Fisher's Point has definitely got some charm to it. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. If you've got suggestions for what else to see in Fisher's Point, keep them coming in the comments as well. But that is all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye!